I'm Chosen Architect, and this is All the Mods 9, and today we continue our preparation for the All the Mods Star, and well, we get into some pneumatic craft. Hopefully you guys are ready. Now this is episode 50, so if you're a supporter of any tier, be sure to check out the world downloads that you get access to over on the Discord. Discord.gg/ChosenArchitect. Be sure to join, link your accounts, and get your world download today. Now on to the episode. Now this is episode 50, and my goodness, has this become such a fun series for me. I have done tons of cool builds and absolutely enjoyed every aspect of this so far. Now, episode 50 doesn't mean that this is over. We are actually far from over. There's still quite a lot that I want to do. And I just wanted to stop for a moment and say thank you as the viewer for watching through these series. It really does mean a lot to me and allows me to make these videos in the first place. So, yet again, I will say this, thank you. Now, what exactly are we going to do today? Being episode 50, I kind of want to build, because you guys are going to get access to the world downloads, those who are supporters, I want to kind of build out some more infrastructure. And so today, I think we're going to build out the area where we're essentially going to be putting our All the Mods Star. Yes, the place where we're eventually going to automate the star and hopefully send everything to. But there's also some other things that I want to do today, and besides all of that. And that is, we actually need to get a little bit into pneumatic craft because we have to automate some things through pneumatic craft. Honestly, that's going to be a small portion of today's video because the majority of it is going to be building the place, and I have it kind of prepped up right here. So let's take a look at this. Now, I have myself a clearing card in here, and this is just sort of just mass clear out an area and also build out a very precise shape. I've really loved the builder. And so I kind of mapped out and kind of drew with my own hands to kind of go through here, clearing it out, kind of the shape that I wanted. And so now I have my shape card in here. And if you're wanting to know the exact shape of this, here it is. It's a 23 by 23 by 23. And I have an offset of where it's currently positioned by 10. And I'm sending it back in this direction, 25. So whenever we see the support view, we can actually see this more clearly. Now, this is just to get a base shape, and of course, I'm going to fill this out in more, but I did want to show you something that I kind of figured out. Now, if you actually uncheck this support view mode, what will end up happening is the offsets can get all kinds of messed up. But I did find, as you just seen there, that instead of removing the source view here, or the support preview, if you just click this button, it actually auto removes the preview, and then, well, that kind of just broke the whole thing I was talking about. It retains it. So there you see right there, it has now retained that information. So you support view, and then when you come out to look at it and you go back in and you click back in here, it has now remembered this, where it doesn't actually do that for some reason if you were to click the support view. Now, anyways, so we need to get that turned on and get that clearing out that area. Some other things that I've done is I've gone through here with the exchanging gadget, and I have kind of removed a lot of the ore from the walls. And this is for something that I might do here in the future, which is potentially start modifying all of the walls here to more reflect what we have going on over here, as this is essentially going to be the idea for this area. And then also to possibly clear this out a bit more and make it look a lot nicer, also keeping with this design of the copper running all through this whole base. Now, just like Crunk, I should be able to pull the lever, and this should start clearing this out, making sure there's no filter in here. Everything should be working smoothly. There we go. And we can now see this is clearing this entire area out for me. Perfect. This saves me a lot of time and also gives me a nice outline to be able to start modifying this myself. Now, I've gone ahead and mapped out what these stars are going to actually look like. So I have this star setting here and here. And the goal is to use this as kind of an idea about how big these things are actually going to be. I think I'm going to flatten out the sort of floor here. I think I want these lifted up off the ground, and I'm kind of figuring out how I want to sort of kind of blend the terrain in here so it doesn't look like these perfect spheres. Now, as I start to build this thing out, you may be wondering, Chosen, why are there two stars? Well, that's actually a good question. We do actually really only need one. But I think I want to actually set up the automation for the Patrick Star in the physical form. However, I will later on have a B for it. And we ultimately need the bee to craft them anyways. But I just kind of like the aesthetic of having two giant stars of crafters set up like this. Oh, it's going to be so good. And I'm also thinking right here is going to be a window into a steam engine that is going to be powering these things. Oh, it's going to be good. So currently I'm kind of getting the idea sort of set up. I'm like hand painting in all of this material here. Right now I'm going in with the dark prismarine, and yeah, this is starting to sort of fill out. And that's when we need to start filling in the detail and really start to figure out kind of where we're going with this. So just taking a look at all of this, this is ultimately how I want everything to sort of be wrapped in together. Just like we have all of this, I really want to sort of expand around here with this sort of design that we have going here with the copper on the outside, and then up top we go up with the brick, and then we go into the dark prismarine, and then we have it sort of dotted together with some warped planks, just like you kind of see right here. Except this is sort of like two tendrils sort of coming together, and then in the middle is the warp plank that kind of divided it up. Now, keep in mind, in the middle here, I do want to have a window, so this is actually going to be cleared out, and we're going to work on that here in a moment. But now that we have this sort of laid out, I think it's now time to start working on that, well, pneumatic craft process. Now, this is specifically the pneumatic craft process that I'm talking about. So we already have our quantum rings. I've already made all of the chunk destroyers. Well, we're actually about to make all of the chunk destroyers. I've already made all the infinity nukes, and all of the materials in here we basically have, other than the micro missiles, which we're going to get here in just a moment with a villager. But aside from that, we have ourselves the ability to produce these pulsating black holes. But it does look kind of complicated because it requires a pressure chamber. However, I will say it's not all that bad. It just might take a little bit of time because pressure needs to build up unless you have speed upgrades from this mod, which requires a massive LPG sort of setup, which does get complicated. Then it's going to, like I said, just take some time without those speed upgrades. But I think we can do it quite easily. Now, I made these seeds quite a while ago, but you can actually make compressed iron seeds. And so we do have them, but how you would get compressed iron normally is, well, you would place down iron and light TNT next to it, and then a percentage of it will be lost. It looks like an average loss of 20%, and then you will get this in return. And then this is like the primary crafting ingredient for this mod. Now, I almost feel like us just making the pressurized chamber for this craft is kind of, well, a punch to the face to this mod, because there's a lot of cool things you can do with this mod, and I did play around with a ton of these things back in All the Mods 8. So if you want to check that out, all you have to do is just search ChosenArchitect and Pneumatic Craft. And I've covered the drones and everything. We created a quarry with pneumatic drones. Isn't that crazy? So if programming and logistics is your thing, this is the mod for you. Now, all we need to really worry about making right now is these pressurized chamber walls. We also need some pressure valves and some pressurized chamber interfaces and some pressurized chamber glass for some looks. Wow, all of that talk about speed upgrades, and yeah, I'm actually wrong. Now, normally this required, in the past, these speed upgrades required you to go through LPG processing, and you would need to get lubricant. But in this case, no, you just need sugar. I'm actually pretty excited about that. Now, after getting a few things on AutoCraft, really this should be quite a breeze. We just need to figure out where we're going to place this multi-block. And I'm thinking right here in the wall might actually be a pretty decent place to get this, well, not so large structure. So now that I have an area nice and filled out, let's go ahead and get pneumatic crafting. These were all materials that I had either found, like all this compressed stone, we had actually found it, I believe, in chests. So I did have a few things that I could actually use to sort of build with. And these are the reinforced stone that we actually use to craft some of the pneumatic craft stuff. But you can also use them for decoration. I don't know. They have an interesting texture, and it's kind of going to it's going to really fit in here, I think, once we get this going. So back to pneumatic craft. So I've gotten some of the things sort of auto-crafted and ready to go. Now, the pressure valve, we only need one of them, but it crafts in stacks of 16, which is kind of interesting. And then we need 2 of these pressure chamber interfaces. Now, I'm still kind of figuring out how big I actually want to make this thing, but you can make this as small as a 3x3 if you really want to. Now, right here, this is going to be my center point. So regardless of how big I make this thing, that is going to be where it's going to go. And I think building out this size will be pretty fine. This should be more than enough space. to set up this this machine. So on the bottom, we're just going to leave it empty like this. And then on the side, if we're building this in a 5x5, might as well go 5 up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then yes, it's just like every other thing in Minecraft. We're building a block, a multi-block. Now in my case, I want my pressure valve to be on the top. So I'm going to actually send air into the top of this thing. And on the sides, on the back, I think that's where I'm going to send the input. And then on these sides, well, they're just going to be glass. And I think with this being this size, I might actually sort of expand this out just a little bit. Now to finish this sort of thing up, all we have to do is make sure that we put our interfaces in correctly. Now on the outside, this is going to be the input. And so if we go ahead and place it from the outside, you notice the blue here, that means input, and the orange is an output. And that means I need to be on the inside to place the input that is going to send the items to the output. So this should be the output chamber, and this will be the input chamber. Hopefully that made sense. And we should be able to finish the multi-block by placing that in. And there we go. We now have ourselves a pressurized chamber. And this is going to be where we actually craft those black holes. Now we still need to build up pressure, and to be able to get pressure and start to produce pressure, which is what Pneumaticraft is all about, we need to go ahead and use air compressors. Well, this is one of the easiest ways, I think, to do it, because we can just send this a burnable fuel, and this will just produce pressure out of the back here. So we can actually feed this to the face, and I'm going to use a few of these because we need to maintain that high bar to be able to craft these fast enough. But technically you could do this with just one compressor. It would just take quite a while, and also would require way more fuel in order for you to burn these faster. Now, in our particular case, what I'm planning on doing is using a barrel right here, and I'm going to export coal to this barrel. And that is going to start to send coal into all of our machines. So let's actually do charcoal, right? We can just do regular charcoal, and then I'm going to put a stack upgrade in here, and then we'll get a crafting card to make sure this is going to go ahead and constantly craft that charcoal. And it doesn't have to be crazy fast. We just need to make sure there's a stack upgrade in there. And now we can use regular pipes to pipe into these machines. But before we do all of that, I think it would be a good idea to put all of our security upgrades in here. Now, security upgrades are going to prevent these from overpressurizing and going boom. Yes, they can do that, and so can pipes. So be very careful when you're setting your machines up, and do not forget to put these in here. Now, as far as pipe goes, I'm going to show you how to set those up in just a minute, and then we should be able to get this up and running. So in the face of these machines, let's go ahead and put ourselves some tubes connected to each other. Now at the very top of this, just to keep some safety in mind, let's put a safety tube module. What this will do was it will say if it reaches 4.9 bar, then it should hopefully protect this pipe from going boom. And so we just put that on there, and then we just need to branch this over. And I would also like to put another one of those directly on top here as well. Now, we can also accidentally overpressurize our chamber. So inside of here, we probably also want a security upgrade, and that will hopefully expel excess air. Now, taking a look back at the ingredients for this and seeing what we actually need, it tells us we need it to be at exactly 4.9 bar, which all of this should have a set to make sure we go and stay at 4.9 bar. Well, at least not go over 4.9 bar, because that's when trouble will erupt with using these basic pipes. All right, I know you're like, Chosen, quit rambling on. Let's go ahead and get this set up. So what I need to do is I need to open up my tool bag, and we can just get any wrench right here. And I'm going to shift right click to set that to pull. And underneath the items section, I'm going to put my upgrade in here and make sure this is set to round robin. And that should evenly distribute coal into all of these. Now these are going to start kicking off, and they're currently running, and they're currently compressing air, and we'll start to see this slowly build up. And slow is what it is. It is going to be pretty slow without these speed upgrades. Now, something I also want to keep in mind is volume upgrades, and all of your upgrades can be explained right here. So volume upgrades uses some math right here to increase the volume of air that can be stored inside of the container, meaning that whenever you craft with something, it shouldn't dip below the crafting threshold as quickly. So that's something to keep in mind if you start to bulk craft in this machine. So my crazy self is going to put the max that you can put in here, which is 25 volume upgrades. And then I want to use speed upgrades on the other side, the other end here, to increase how quickly these actually pressurize the machine. But we have to be kind of careful. This will start to dramatically increase the amount that fuel these are going to consume. Now, I will say putting those volume upgrades are going to make this take a lot longer to fill up and actually get to the pressure. The pressure will maintain over here, but it's got to disperse all of that pressure into this container and fill a much, much larger volume. Now, I'm not hearing any sounds or hissing from this, but I am noticing something interesting. This is emitting a ton of particles, and usually you only see these smoke particles when there is like pressure escaping. However, this just looks like now it shows like pressure being added into here, like as if it's like condensation happening. It's kind of interesting. That's actually new. Yeah. And I will say those particles are far reaching because they expand out like 16 or so blocks out. That's crazy. Now, while we're waiting on this to sort of build up pressure, let's go ahead and get the automation process set up. So with this chamber, unfortunately, it can only input one item at a time. So hooking this directly up to a crafter, we might run into some issues. So to do that, I would like to use like a buffer barrel, is like I'd like to call it. And I'm going to use omnidirectional hoppers. This is going to be pretty cool. So we should be able to, if we look at the bottom of this and also click on it, we should be able to place our omnidirectional hopper facing down where this hopper is essentially pulling out of the barrel going into the pressurized interface. And this actually has some filters. It's a hopper with filters, and we can put some speed upgrades in here to speed this hopper up. Now, it's really cool where this hopper works here because we can also have it on the side, and we can have it pulling out of here from the side as well. Now, it's best to have like the wrench from Pneumaticraft for this to work, but if you angle it just right, look at that. You can now have the hopper pulling directly out of here whenever this opens and sending it right into this barrel. Also, speed upgrades definitely worthwhile. Now, for some reason, we can only turn this dial up to 11, apparently. I mean, which is more than enough. I'm going to put the 11 in here. These don't require any pressure to work. So this is just going to make that hopper just run way smoother. And then all we got to do is add our importer over here, and that's going to import back into our refined storage system, and then tap into our crafter here. And I'm going to use a netherite crafter to send the items into the barrel. And then this will one by one start to put the ingredients into our chamber as needed, meaning we could technically use this now to autocraft any of the Pneumaticraft related products. Now, while I'm going ahead and waiting for that to sort of finish airing up, much like a bike tire, we are going to go ahead and go after the final thing that we actually need. Like I have everything else crafted up. Like I still have to craft like the chunk destroyers, right? So for example, if I go to craft the chunk destroyers, let's see, we need 18 of these. I've already crafted all of the prerequisites for the chunk destroyer. All I need to do now is simply go in here and make sure I just select them. And I think if I double click or click it and turn it orange, it will then have it selected. Unfortunately, you still have to manually go in and select them unless you were just constantly feeding in the items for them. So this should build up. But I think there's also another issue with like how it starts to send the items in as well. I unfortunately couldn't craft these pumps because for some reason Refined Storage didn't like me putting in 212 or 512 or whatever it was glass that was required for these. Yeah, the 512. It wouldn't let me put that in the pattern, and it wouldn't let me send that into the machine, which is just, I guess, a limitation. I don't know. But yes, so I had to manually sort of craft those by adding an exporter here and sending glass into this in order to craft. And by the way, notice these importers are not working. For some reason, when this finishes the craft, it sends it to the next workbench. So yeah, so my chunk destroyers are actually building up over here. But what I need to get into is this flight module. And this is kind of painful to do, I will say. Now, the way you could help yourself maybe is by... Well, I guess what we could do is set up like a gas spawner, but what I'm going to do is probably just go to the nether and I'm just going to simply farm gas. It doesn't show it here, but you are going to need syringes. It says targeted to gas, and I assume that these need to be fully filled with it, not just simply done. I don't know. Let's go ahead and go to the nether, not end, and let's go ahead and see. I mean, that's all we can do, right? We need a gas to spawn, and let's just see if we can craft it if we've just simply targeted the mob, not necessarily filled this whole thing. Because I'm almost positive that this has to be filled for this to work. I don't know what the chances of this is of happening, but a ghast managed to spawn in here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just hit it once. That sets it as a target with its value of 10. But I might actually capture this thing. So, hostile, let's see. Or we can just swab it. That actually might be pretty decent to do as well. Let's just go ahead and swab this. There we go. Now, I have no confidence of this actually working with just hitting it without it being full, but I guess we can give it a shot. Man, these unintentional puns, I tell you what. So just as I thought, even though it is set like it shows in the recipe, this actually needs to be a full syringe. So it's time to make ourselves some ghast DNA. So let's go ahead and get our ghast spawn egg. There we go. And now we can put that inside of a spawner in the nether, because I don't want this on my base. So just go ahead and get the spawner placed in. I got my egg now, and well, this is going to be a journey of constantly making these. And once they're filled, I'll have to kind of move on to the next one until I have 18 of these filled. Now, there is a possibility that this could be automated with modular routers if you had some sort of system, but for 18 of them, I just feel like maybe that's just not necessary. Yeah, I'm also going to need to increase the speed of this thing. You know what? After doing this a couple of times, I'm like, maybe I can make this quite easy to automate. So I just have a barrel here with a modular router next to the spawner. And since the ghasts are actually just spawning right on top here, this should be able to work. Now I have a puller that is pulling in empty syringes from the left going into the modular router. The modular router is then going to click up top and is going to attack a nearby entity. And we're going to have it set to just entity in range, which is fine. However, I did find out that it can attack vengeance spirits, which is kind of weird. But then ultimately, we should never have to worry about vengeance spirits because we're only going to match this right here, which is a syringe that has maxed out the syringe to 100 and is targeted a ghast. So if all of this is put in here correctly, also you are going to need power. So you need energy upgrades and to give it some power in the bottom. This should technically work if we put this syringe over here. Now to test, if we put this syringe in the buffer, notice that's going to get pulled out as it loops through the operations. So we should now have a fresh syringe, or so we would hope. But it does appear like this upgrade may need some changes to happen to it to specifically filter these. I think possibly set to match MBT might be the way that we get this to work. So that has now went over, but if we put a regular syringe in, it's not going to go over until it has matched that MBT. Perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn this on. And we should see this technically working. Yeah, as odd as it is, this is filling up very loud, and it has finished and has now gone in here. And let's go ahead and put another syringe in, and we're going to see it is filling up with vengeance spirits. But as soon as that vengeance spirit is gone, technically this should revert back to the ghast. Notice it's at 100%. But as soon as that vengeance spirit has despawned, it goes back to ghast and continues to fill up. So I'll just idle here, listening to these horrifying noises for quite a while. Now I think I've found an odd solution to running out of ghasts. And that's just to use a heal spell, just to constantly keep healing this thing. Kind of disturbing. I'm just prolonging the eternal suffering. This is kind of awful. This reminds me of like when my kids go to get a shot at the doctor. Yeah, that's exactly that. And now with all of the syringes made up, we have all 18. We can end the ghast suffering right there. Look at that. We have all 18 syringes now maxed out at ghast. That is fantastic. And now we should be able to simply craft all of these. Just like that. Now that was 11, but I'm just needing to craft up the ghast tiers. And we should have everything ready to go. Looks like I have to put the syringe in first, but once it's in there, then we can just craft the rest. And this is technically 18. They only stack to 16 though. Now look at that. This is already at 4.37 bar, which we do have to get it up a little bit higher. But it does appear that this should be working. It is probably going to start creeping a bit slower as it gets to those top end ranges. Now with all of that kind of still working, let's go ahead and start to work on micro missiles. Now, micro missiles do have a very complicated recipe if you were to go the standard route of actually making PCBs. But we're not going to do that. We are going to instead do the villager trades. And this is going to be one of the easiest ways, but you can also find micro missiles throughout the world, and you can find them inside of loot chests. So it's another way that you can also go about getting them. But yes, and it even mentions that inside of the quest. So it's not like I'm doing anything to kind of like divert what is like sort of recommended for you to do. I just suggest that you can do this both ways. Now, we have set up a ton of villagers. So we are kind of set up for this. All we need is a charge station and to place our villager in, and there we go. But we do need a bunch of emeralds to basically run through these trades. So for example, this guy wants to trade me all of those. That's going to unlock, ooh, this is actually a good villager. It's going to unlock the capacitors and transistors. And then we have some drones that we can buy to hopefully level this guy up even further, ultimately leading us to the maxed out tier, which is where we want to be to find out if we have unlocked micro missiles. And we got lucky on our first go. And oh my goodness, you actually unlock finished PCBs. I'm still so like blown away that there is this entire process of getting finished PCBs, and the process is so complex, right? But this villager is here. I don't know if this is added or this is a part of the base mod, but it being a part of the base mod still blows my mind at how complicated finished PCBs are, because you need to go through the assembly process, and then to get the empty one, you need to pressurize certain materials. Then it needs to be etched with the UV light box. There's a lot of things that you got to go through, and it's just right here, along with the micro missiles. That's crazy. I mean, but to be fair though, if you do want to get into some of the advanced drone stuff, you do need those finished PCBs. So it is kind of a fast track to getting to that point. But whew, that's like a whole progression line just done like that. It would be hilarious if like you bought that PCB and then the villager just pressurized and combusted. That would be hilarious. I've always kind of wondered what micro missiles do, and well, this is now my chance to figure that out. I think there are some mobs over here. Let's pop down into this, and yes, that's what a micro missile does. So no, it has like 100 durability, and I didn't know it did this. It is straight up a rocket, and it does a lot of damage. That's hilarious. And it says terrain damage disabled. I don't know if that's something we can do. Target filter, wait, missiles activate seek. We can have it set to dumb. Have it target specific things apparently. Okay. Yes, this is something interesting. It's homing to them. It was homing right to those mobs. That is funny. I learn something new every day. Now, I want to go ahead and try and send at least my first set into the machine. So I'm prepping for the autocraft for the pulsating black hole. And so let's go ahead and get this pattern, and let's see and make sure that it actually sends our infinity nuke. That's the only thing out of this whole group that I'm worried that it may not automatically send from our storage into here. And I'm going to take this one out of my inventory. And let's go ahead and put this one inside of our backpack for now. That way it's just left with the ones that are in here. But I should have everything else ready to go. I have all of the things crafted up. And yes, even the vials of expulsion, this was really easy to craft. Not even really worth mentioning too much. So let's go ahead and put this in here. And this is getting very close. But the thing is we should be able to put the items in before it even reaches the maximum. I also took out some of the volume upgrades, and that was a mistake on my part because it reset all of the pressure in here, unfortunately. But it was just like not going anywhere. So I just put one in here for now, and that should be fine. This is probably going to take a while to craft things because of it trying to build up that pressure. And without having advanced tubes, this becomes a little bit more of an issue here. Now, if all is working properly, we should be able to craft the black hole. Oh boy. So we'll start, and that's just one, and it should send just one, and it does look like it sent, I think, everything into here. I hope. It doesn't look like it sent everything, but it should have. Okay, I think it is. It's just kind of waiting in the hopper, right? Okay, so yeah, everything is in the hopper. and it's going to put everything in one by one. And unfortunately, it does lose a little bit of pressure when it does this whole operation here. Now, unfortunately, I don't think, well, actually, no, this should only export out of this when it is finished doing the craft. So we see the items in there, but it will not actually export. So there's no redstone needed or anything like that. And look at the items all in there, just waiting to go, I think. I think that is, there's a couple more items. And once all of them are in there, we simply just need to wait for the pressure to reach that 4.9 bar, which might be a little bit more difficult than I initially anticipated. I'm just trying to see and make sure this is still increasing. Crazy is I've never seen the items resting in here like this. Usually I make a much smaller version of this, but whenever you build it out to this size, you can actually see all of the items resting in there, which is kind of cool. Now with all the items in, we can actually see the recipe now, and we can see this little sliver right here, and that is at the moment where it should start to craft this. And once I know that this is going to work and these items don't like disappear or anything like that, we can send all 18 and then just let it start to populate. And you can actually send more than one item of the recipe, and it will just only do the operation of the completion once it has crafted all of them. I think I might have this. This has been kind of complicated. I've ended up putting a pressurized tube over here. I think because this was so far away, there it goes. It did the craft. Okay, so what I ended up doing was I put a pressure tube module over here, or a pressurized gate, basically. I think that's what it's called. What is it called? A pneumatic tube, I believe. There's so many names to these things. This thing right here. Okay, so a regulator tube module. This sort of limits this to 4.9 on this side. I don't know if this is actually benefiting any, other than the fact that this compressor is just right here, making this a lot nicer. Now that this is going to 5, that is going to start the security upgrade, and we should put a regulator on here as well, or a tube regulator. Now I noticed that if I put a tube regulator here, I feel like this starts to drain the air pressure too quickly. So we actually can't use a regulator like that on there. Instead, we have to have it connected to this compressor. I have no idea why this is no longer connected. There it goes. But yes, we kind of have to limit this. So I'm thinking otherwise this will kind of blow. But this should be like at the perfect pressure. And this should actually not increase in pressure any further than like what it's currently at, or 4.94 bar. But this is like at the perfect pressure right now. And all it took was me adding another air compressor over here. So this is to kind of keep the main pressure going, and this one is like kind of a boost for that main pressure limit. Wow. This is complicated. Now, I'm sure that it was technically meant for us to use some advanced pipes and some advanced machines and then regulate it in that way, but this actually seems to work. So I should be able to make those pulsating black holes. So at this point, it is time to go ahead and say, let's get all 17 ready to go, because we've already crafted one, so that's 18. And so that should put everything inside of here ready to go. And yes, it's going to put all of those ingredients in one by one. That will, or should, I believe, lower the pressure overall each time it does that operation. But yeah, before long, we're going to have all of this crafted. Oh, you know, actually, I really hope this isn't the case, but I'm wondering if this will craft each consecutive craft if there are like multiple of these singular items in here. Ooh, this could pose a bit of a problem. So as I kind of expected, I think that we've hit a maximum on the inventory space, and that's kind of unfortunate. Now, there is a way that we can actually fix this. And so to do that, what we'll do is we'll just simply set this from the crafted mode to just export whatever's in there. And that means we are going to need to get all of these things back, cancel this craft, putting these all back in our inventory here, putting them back in our storage, and just simply retrying this, but instead maybe one or two at a time, because we can't do this incredibly fast. That's unfortunate. So let's set this mode to all, and then just place this in like we had done. Like that. And then that's going to pull these ingredients back out. one by one yet again. And then we got to send this back in regularly. Oh boy. Now I did find this out. I switched this to a pipe actually. And yeah, the time in the bottle seems to actually work on pulling the items out and putting the items in, I would assume too. Now at this point, I think we just simply need to just do one at a time. And so I'm going to go ahead and craft and send that over here. And then we can accelerate this. Let's just send it to 4 for right now. We are at 4.94 bar. So with this accelerating a little bit faster, this might actually be not too bad to do. Yeah, we can just accelerate that block on the insert. And then it should complete. And then it gets sent over there. And then we just need to re-request. And keep doing this process because unfortunately with our current setup, this is going to be the really only way we could do it. I mean, we could use some redstone to potentially lock this crafter until this was received. But yeah, this is a little bit, this is okay. You know what? Speeding that import right there up. Yeah, even higher than we were doing. This is going incredibly fast now. So here we go. This should be my request of our 18th pulsating black hole, and wow, this only took me like 5 minutes. So all of this, it just a couple of minutes of just manual work, but it wouldn't be that long if you were just doing one. But because we are doing 18 of these, it is taking a bit longer, which I'm completely fine for, especially with what we actually get from having 18 stars. So here it is. That's our last one. And that is 18 of these pulsating black holes all ready to go. How cool is that? So with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. There is still a whole lot for us to do. The only thing we're really missing is nether stars, and we're going to work on a whole project related to nether star production here soon. And other than that, we have just about everything else ready to go, aside from, well, diamonds and emeralds, which I'm also working on a project for. So, guys, if you did enjoy and you're looking forward to the All the Mod Star crafting, be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video a huge thumbs up. And it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. That is going to be a huge thanks going out to Cow Slayer 07. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support and supporting me in one of the best ways possible by becoming a Discord premium member. And guys, if you are interested in joining the Discord, go to discord.gg/ChosenArchitect. Also, if you're a supporter of any tier, whether that's on Twitch, Patreon, or what have you, be sure to link your account to the Discord so you get access to your world download. And guys, I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye.